Hello there YouTube, welcome back to my channel. I am Lisa the PFJ. I hope you're having a wonderful day today on this Tuesday morning, afternoon that we're having right now, or whatever part of the world you're in, whatever time of day it is. I hope you're having a really good one. I'm going to try something a little different again today. Today I'm going to try and review a movie that I've seen recently and try and do it in 10 minutes or less. It occurred to me the other day when I remembered a film I watched when I was on my recent travels and thought I would give people a recap of it, because when I saw it on the On-Flight Entertainment, which is where I watched it, I realised that I'd heard of this film but I hadn't really actually seen a great deal of coverage of it, so here goes nothing. I'm going to talk to you today about a movie called House of Gucci. Now, if you haven't heard of it, it came out back end of last year. It was directed by Ridley Scott, and it covers the real life story, or gives a basis of the real life events that occurred amongst the family who are responsible for the Gucci fashion brand. It's all very much based in Italy, also some of it based in America, because they had a lot of operations in the country when they were first getting really big. But what it focuses on specifically, as at the centre of the story, is the story of the heir to the Gucci fashion empire, who's called Maurizio Gucci, and his marriage to Patrizia Reggiano, who he married in the early 80s, and it caused a lot of friction between him and his family because she wasn't deemed a proper heiress material. She was a bit of a common person, if you want to call her that. She is portrayed in the movie by Lady Gaga, and Maurizio Gucci is portrayed by Adam Driver, and there are other members of the Gucci family involved in the story. Maurizio's father, whose name escapes me at the minute, is played by Jeremy Irons. He was one of the early people in the Gucci empire. His brother is played by Al Pacino, and his son, Al Pacino's character's son, who I believe Al Pacino's character is called Aldo, I think, and his son is played by Jared Leto. I enjoyed the movie for the most part. I thought it was very well made. I think it was, it seems to, for after a little bit of a deep dive into the story and finding out some more of the details of it that aren't quite covered in the movie, it's fairly faithful to what actually happened. It looks like Lady Gaga portrayed her pretty well. I was quite impressed with her. I mean, I saw her in A Star Is Born not that long ago. I thought she was very good in that, and it was very much in her wheelhouse because it had a very music-central storyline. But this one just requires her to be an out-and-out actress. There's no musical performances involved. So she does very well for the part, I believe. I thought Adam Driver was very good. I like him in general anyway, because most of what I've seen him in recently, if you bar the Star Wars sequels, which were yikes, I very much like him as an actor. I think he's very good. Al Pacino is very much just what he is these days. He plays a sort of on-screen representation of himself playing someone else. But I mean, he's Al Pacino. He's a fairly legendary status these days, so he can do what he wants. Jeremy Irons, as always, very good as well. I love him as an actor as well. I think he did very well in the movie. The only problems I had with the film were twofold. The soundtrack is very distracting. It's mostly because of the time era that it's set in. It's very much music from that period, so it's all sort of from the 80s, into the late 80s, and a little bit into the early 90s as well. And as much as I love music from that era, and I am a fan of the songs that are on that soundtrack, some of it can be very distracting and jarring from what's going on the screen, and that's not supposed to happen if the soundtrack's good. And one scene, which I'll try not to give too much away, but if it's all historical stuff, so it's all based on real life, so it can be it's easily found online if you're not even interested in the movie. There's a scene when the two main characters are getting married and they're in the church, like preparing for the ceremony. She's walking down the aisle with her father, her stepfather as he is, And the song, I recognised it instantly from the moment you see her walking down the aisle. It's the intro to the song Faith by George Michael, which has, if you've heard the song, the intro is a rendition of Freedom by Wham, but played on a church organ. And because of that being, they're in a church, they're getting married, you get why that's there, but it then cuts into the actual song as they're getting married, the song Faith. And it doesn't mesh very well with what's going on screen. I was just like, it's trying to be sort of, I guess, kitschy and sort of a little bit off kilter, which is what's sort of hinting at what their relationship's going to be like, because they are hugely dysfunctional. Because if you're aware of the story, if you don't want to know, then don't listen from here on out. But their marriage is very volatile, and it becomes very clear as they go on, especially when he starts to take more of a role as the head of the fashion house. He gets very much more wrapped up in becoming the cold-hearted CEO and making decisions without anyone else's input, but she feels like she should have more of an input because she's sort of given him the personality, and because up until he met her, he's quite sort of reserved and a little bit quieter, and she feels like she's influenced him to the point where she's made him businessman and CEO material. So she has like they say delusions of grandeur, but she feels like she's owed part of this business because she, in her eyes, built him up to become the success that he is, which very much leads them down a path of becoming very antagonistic towards each other. They clearly aren't it's very much built up to be a relationship based on sort of lust and more superficial stuff, but it becomes they're not clear that they're not compatible with each other as time goes on, and they do eventually separate, and she gets involved with a plot to have him assassinated, which is successful, and he gets murdered outside the headquarters of his business. And it's all very dysfunctional stuff, very dramatic, and suitably done so by Ridley Scott to reflect that real life drama. So at times it feels kind of like soap opera-ish, but over the top, but then it's an over the top story. So that to me is fair enough. But like I said, the soundtrack part could be quite distracting, and the second part I found really off-putting as well was Jared Leto's portrayal of sorry, I didn't prepare for this, but he's one of the Gucci family. He's the son of the Al Pacino character, who is the brother of the Jeremy Irons character, so he's cousins with the Adam Driver character. And he is a overweight, balding sort of man who is something of a buffoonish character. He feels like he has the talent to be a large part of the Gucci household and has something to contribute to it, but it transpires that he isn't actually that talented. He designs clothes which just aren't representative of the Gucci brand, and the people around him know this, but they have clever ways of distracting him and making it so he doesn't get involved in the business and therefore ruin everything. So then it very much goes into a whole backstabbing plot where he becomes a fall guy for a lot of what occurs during the film. But like I said, he's portrayed by Jared Leto, so because of how I've just described him, he's put under a lot of heavy prosthetics and a fat suit to make him look more like the character he's presenting. Now, if you're familiar with Jared Leto's method of acting, he fully immerses himself into the person he's playing. He's a method actor, so he fully immerses himself and goes the extra ways, does acts the same way as the character off set and off camera as he would on, while they're in the process of filming. Even when he's not being recorded, he will behave the way that person would in real life, and it's just very cringe-inducing. I can't really describe it any other way. He's got this very over-the-top Italian accent, which fair enough he may have spoken like. I've never heard this person speak. I've never seen any recordings of this man speaking before, but he is so over the top and so like mamma mia sort of like, I got vibes of that, and every time he appeared on screen and opened his mouth, I just inwardly cringed. I was like, oh, this is so bad. And I like Jared Leto for the most part, but I've seen him in plenty of stuff where he is quite good. I mean, Dallas Buyers Club, which he won all the awards for, I loved him in that. I thought his performance in that was superb, but it was just really hard to sort of sit through some of the scenes with him in it, and yeah, I just wasn't for it. And so to wrap up, I liked the way it was made. Like I said, I very much liked Lady Gaga and Adam Driver's performances. I liked Jeremy Irons as well. Al Pacino, like I said, is Al Pacino, but Jared Leto just didn't do it for me. And the story overall, I think they represented it pretty well, but they might have tried to portray certain people more sympathetically than they probably should have, because I mean there were hints of the Lady Gaga character being hard done by, and just being a bit portrayed as a mean bitch, wife, where she was probably a little bit more like the woman behind the powerful man. And it's like, at the end of the day, guys, she got convicted and put to prison for essentially being responsible for murder. So it's not really who you want to pin your powerful woman badge on. So yeah, but I mean, for the most part, they were faithful to how she actually was in real life, by the sounds of things, and from what I've read myself. So about the history of the whole thing. But yeah, overall, I'd say rating-wise, if I'm doing it from a 1 to 10, I'd give it a solid 6. 6 out of 10, so there you go. If you're into your sort of real-life drama, adaptation sort of things, and you like your fashion, I suppose, which I like looking at fashion. I'm not saying I'm a fashionable person myself, but yeah, if you're into that kind of thing, I believe you will enjoy it. But if you're not, then I'd maybe just give it a wide berth and watch something else. So that's it. I think that was under 10 minutes, so I'll keep it brief. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, share it with your friends, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.